bygone day. They're the eyes of a man whose lust knows no bounds, who lives but for corrupting others to a life of carnal pleasures and lewd designs.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Horny Creek. My name's Mark. With me as always is my fiance Carol. How you doing today, Carol?
Hey, what's up?
Oh, it's been a good week here. It is May 6th, 1998.
Summer's coming.
Happy belated Cinco de Mayo, which I believe stands for 5 jars of mayonnaise.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Right? The 5 mayos.
The 5th of May, yes.
It has something to do with...
I don't know, some war or something.
Cool.
I don't know.
Anyway, we watched...
It's Margarita Day, that's
Right.
what
Way to honor the the Mexican Revolution or whatever. But we watched Dawson's Creek
Yep.
while drinking margaritas. And they teased me.
They teased you. What do you mean?
This episode was called Friday the 13th.
Oh, you thought you were
And I
finally
thought,
getting Jason.
Jason Voorhees in Cape Side. Horror episode. I was sure of it. And then there's somebody killing people. And I was like, it's Jason. It's going to be Jason. The hockey mask and all showing up.
Now, isn't the dude that made Scream, like, the director or whatever?
The dude that made... I've been partying a little too hard. I'm thinking about it. Isn't the dude that made Scream?
Okay, am I fucking,
Apparently.
that Hawaiian guy?
It's the memory loss, right?
Keanu Reeves. Do I sound like Keanu Reeves? Is that what's happening?
I'm not here for you, dude. I don't care what you did. No, you're not Keanu Reeves.
Okay.
What? Kevin Williamson,
Okay.
creator of Scrum. He didn't direct it, though. Wes Craven directed it.
So
He wrote it, and he wrote I Know What You Did Last Summer.
I'm just saying I would expect more that kind of horror, which I think is what we were getting in this episode.
Okay, so Scream was inspired a lot by Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives,
What?
which I explained to you before.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's very meta. Mm-hmm. And so is Friday the 13th Part 6. It's self-referential. He's a huge fan of Friday the 13th. Steve Miner, who's one of the producers on this movie, on this television show, and has directed several episodes of this television show, and is part of the creative process for this television show, directed Friday the 13th Part 2 and 3.
Okay.
So there is a lot of connections to Friday the 13th. So it's not unreasonable, although they don't own the rights.
Well, there you go.
WB doesn't hold the rights. New Line Cinema holds the rights now to Friday the 13th because Paramount sold it because they got sick of making trash.
WB obviously owns the rights to I Know What You Did Last Summer because we got to see some of that.
Oh, we did. Well, it's Kevin Williamson's movie, so I assume that's, part and parcel there. I don't remember what studio produced Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. I think Dimension.
Oh.
Anyway, so I was hoping we would see Jason, but we don't see Jason.
No.
We do get Dawson in a hockey mask briefly. But it's just, I liked this episode.
Yeah.
This episode, I think, we'll just, before we get into it really, I'll get the technical stuff out of the way because I know it bores everyone. But the use of cinematography, lighting, shadow, stuff like that, a couple of times where they do some close movements with the camera, the back doors banging open and it zooms in on Jen's face and everything. They know what they're doing, and they created the right atmosphere. It looks different than other episodes.
Yeah.
Because it's a horror episode. The director of this actually, Rodman, I think, can't remember. I can't remember his last name. It's something with an L, Flanagan or something like that. He directed Leprechaun 2.
That awful movie that we saw?
No, that was Leprechaun in Space.
Okay.
I think that was the fourth one.
Okay.
He directed the second one.
Okay, well that's acceptable then.
And yeah, he's I hear he's got a new project coming up too, actually. Something about hands or something. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll probably check it out because it's supposed to be some kind of horror comedy thing. And then Mike White wrote this. I'm not super familiar with him.
Okay.
But he's one of the writers on the show. But I paid attention to those things because I wanted to know how much of a hand Kevin Williamson had in this episode. And it seems like not a ton. I mean, as much as he has in all the episodes, but some episodes he writes directly. Now, obviously he runs the show, so he's going to have a pretty big hand in all the episodes. But it wasn't exclusively, his dream child or whatever.
Right.
To borrow from a different franchise.
I think TV shows generally have a lot more cooks in the kitchen.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's much more of a collaborative thing. But I thought interesting the way they played with, cause like I said, it looks much different than most episodes, if for the better.
Yeah, it was a good episode. I enjoyed it a lot.
I would have enjoyed it a lot more if Jason Voorhees had been in it.
So you would have liked it to be exactly the same, except at the end, the serial killer is not the dude that knocks on the window, but instead Jason Voorhees.
Yes.
Okay. I think that would have been dumb.
If Mrs. Voorhees had come to the thing instead, that would have been even that would have been acceptable. But the mask and everything, I want it.
You got a mask.
I know, but I want Kane Hodder Jason.
Okay, well, you can't have him. Sorry.
All right.
Do you want me to put on a mask later? Like, what's going on here?
Don't make this weird.
Anyway,
You're so weird.
You're weird. This episode starts with, as per usual, Dawson and Joey in his bedroom, in his bed.
I think that I believe I could write a script for Dawson's Creek. I don't know I don't know if it would be any good, but I know that I could structure it.
I'm sure you could.
Interior, Dawson's room, movie. Dawson and Joey on the bed, looking like they want to fuck.
So he mentions that the next day is Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
So in honor of that, they're watching scary movies.
Yeah.
They're watching
I Know What You Did Last Summer.
And Joey switches it to Jerry Maguire,
Right.
which I love.
We get a glimpse of Sarah Michelle Gellar, who was in the show right before Dawson's.
Yep.
Which is that's cool too. That's another tie-in.
Yeah. So Dawson disappears from the bed for a minute, and then he jump scares Joey, and apparently that's his thing. Every Friday the 13th, he pulls pranks and jump scares and
Of
stuff.
course he does, because he's a huge movie dork.
So
he lies for the briefest amount of time in this episode.
Yeah.
And then everything, because he's like, I'm not going to live my life like a movie anymore. I mean, I was living my life like a romance, and then he breaks it down like he's fucking Siskel and or Ebert.
He's so weird.
Where he's like, the love scenes were amateurish at best, and goes through all this stuff, and then they just live the rest of the episode as if they're in a movie.
Yeah.
Because that's him. That's what he does.
Yeah, it's like this episode's Dawson's mind. Jen is getting all super jealous, though, because Dawson is pranking everybody else and scaring everybody else and not her, which was really smart. And I don't even know if he was trying to do it. I think it just worked out this way, because this is like the advice Pacey gave him the last episode, was like, don't treat her special.
Yeah.
And it worked entirely. It drove her nuts.
Yeah. And like I said, if that's the move you'd make, because the thing is, one of two things is going to happen. If they're truly not interested in it anymore, then nothing you do is going to change their mind.
Right.
So it's, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But if they are truly interested, that will make them insane.
Yes. And it did.
Yeah, it 100% did. Especially because he's pranked Joey like 3 or 4 times, and Pacey once with the fake finger in the French fries.
That was stupid. That wouldn't.
All of it's
scare
stupid.
Me. That would not scare. It might gross me out slightly for a second, but it certainly wouldn't scare me.
The rubber snake wouldn't have scared me either.
No. Yeah, you wouldn't assume that a snake in your backpack was real.
There's a snake in my boot. And so, yeah, so he's all geared up for Friday the 13th, but Joey's like, we don't need all these scares because real life is scary enough. And look at this, and let me turn on the news and have it be well-timed news exposition. And they're like, thanks, Joey. A serial killer has been... And they basically just describe that there's a serial killer, stalking 18-year-old girls. And what he does is abducts them. He, stalks them, sends them cards, flowers, calls them, and then he abducts them and cuts their heart out.
Well, we didn't get all that from the news.
And
we got a lot of that from Pacey because his brother's a police officer.
Because his brother's spreading around information that they're holding from the media so that if some nutcase comes and confesses, but he didn't really do it, they can say stuff like, okay, explain this, explain that, what did you do with the bodies? And so they can figure out. That's part of the reason why they do that. Because a lot of times just nutcases will be like, it's me, and then they don't know if it's them or not, so they ask them those kind of questions. Well, they start asking, what'd you do to the body and stuff, and if they don't give those specific details that they've held out of the media, then they know that they're lying.
Wow. Well, it doesn't surprise me that his brother is a stupid asshole. He definitely presents that way.
Yeah, exactly. So
Sorry.
So Pacey's spreading it all over school. And, so that we get that information.
So, Dawson's having a seance at his house in honor of Friday the 13th.
Doesn't make any sense.
No, it really doesn't.
Unless he's trying to resurrect Jason Voorhees.
But, I mean, what's he going to do? Camp night? I mean...
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, Friday the 13th is not really a holiday.
Right. No, it's not. It's a day to stay in my opinion. Jen does get invited, but has to turn him down because she has a date with Cliff.
With Cliff Bar.
When she's speaking with Cliff earlier, she talks about how imaginative Dawson is and how great he is at scaring people and coming up with things. And he gets super jealous. And instead of handling that in a normal human way, he goes directly to Dawson and says, hey, help me. How do I give her a great date?
Yeah.
Who would do that? Nobody would do that. That's stupid.
Hey, how can I get into your ex's pants?
Right. Give me the tips, man. Fuck. That's going to go, one of two ways. Either A, he's going to give you really bad advice so it doesn't work.
Right.
Or B, do the smarter thing that Dawson does. And say, bring her to my house.
Right.
Although, I mean, he did help him to give her some scares. He did do that.
Well, I mean, he didn't, though. She mentioned how Dawson's not pranking her and everything, and that's what gave him the idea. But Dawson really didn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
That wasn't him acting. He wasn't saying, hey, do this, do that. Because when she asks him later, he was like, no, it was all my idea.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Huh. So it's just because she was whining about it, Cliff got the idea to prank her.
Yeah. And because Dawson was doing it to other people, so he was like, that's what she likes.
That was smart. That was the only moment of smart.
I mean, maybe.
But she just thought it was Dawson anyway, the whole time. She's just like, oh, it's Dawson. He calls. Oh, Dawson. She mentions Dawson 3 or 4 times during the phone call, and finally he's like, stop calling me Dawson. Right. He sounded a little mad. Get the hint.
He sounded very, very mad. I guess we should explain. I mean, you've probably seen the episode, but so he leaves a note in her locker that says, I'm going to kill you or something like that. You're
going to die tonight.
Yeah, you know how you do with the people you love.
Right.
And so she's like, it's probably Dawson. And he's like, well, how do you know it was Dawson? And then when she gets home, she's alone because Grams is out, and I mean her grandpa's there, but
He's like comatose or whatever.
At this point, the actor playing her grandpa is just a prop. Anyway.
He's not even making scale. He's not talking.
Fuck no. So yeah, he's getting free craft services. That's what he's doing. But he calls. We're supposed to think throughout the episode that it's possibly the lady killer, which is what they're calling the serial killer that cuts women's hearts out. To which, by the way, when they mention that, Jen's like, well, you just want somebody to love. I kind of feel bad for him.
That's so stupid. What the fuck, Jen? Yeah, like that just made my stomach turn. Like, how gross and idealistic are you?
Jen has a serial killer fetish, I think. Which is why she liked Dawson. He gives off that serial killer vibe.
Does he?
Kind of.
Ew.
So, anyway, it calls, and it's actually... I almost call him Scott because that's the actor's name, Scott Foley. It's Cliff, but we're not supposed to know that.
No,
he's using a Scream voice modulator.
Where did he get that?
A Scream too. But Kevin Williamson gave it to him.
I don't think he was using a voice modulator. I think he was just making his voice husky.
You think he was just putting on a voice?
Yeah.
Hey, Jen, who's Dawson?
Because why would he have a voice modulator just hanging around to use at the last minute?
I don't know. Why wouldn't? Maybe he's a rapist.
Oh, my God.
Anyway, so he calls, and he's like, hey. And she's like, okay. You sound like you smoke a lot. And he says, yeah, let's play a game or whatever, like Kevin Williamson wrote. And they reference Scream. And she's like, oh, is this supposed to be the lady killer? And he was like, I don't know, maybe. And she's like, okay, Dawson, I know it's you, Dawson. And she's like, were you going to cut my heart out? And he's like, I don't know. And she's like, yeah, well, look for a better heart. Mine's been dented or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, sounds like somebody broke your heart or whatever. And she's like, no, it's completely self-inflicted. I mean, she's like, I don't know if Cliff is smart enough to understand the subtext of what she's saying. But essentially, she's saying that she really regrets breaking up with Dawson.
Right. Because she thinks she's talking to Dawson.
Right.
I mean, that's the worst part of this whole conversation. But Cliff's not that bright, so I don't know if he gets any of it.
And so he keeps saying, it's like, who's Dawson? Like, he says it so... I mean, he's using that weird voice, but he says it so, like, innocently the first two times. Like, again, who's Dawson? And then when she says it the third time, he's like, stop calling me Dawson. He does get super pissed.
It's like, not like you're in bed, man. Relax.
Yeah. So then, after that scare, we're not sure what's going on. She's still convinced that it's Dawson. But we pretty much know it's not, or at least think we know it's not. But then they go to, Joey and Pacey and Dawson go into town to get provisions for the seance, for the party.
Yeah, because you need food to perform a seance.
Well, it's a party.
Yeah.
John Wesley Shipp, TV's The Flash, and his mom are out of town.
At some couples retreat, probably.
Yeah, they don't specify, but who knows? They're trying to have some romantic time, I guess. They didn't want to pay them this episode.
Sorry. So, yeah, at the store, first of all, Pacey has hot-wired the family vehicle.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Does he have a license is my first question.
I think he does.
Yeah, because he was driving them in the last episode, too. But that's messed up. That he has to steal the car.
Yeah, borrow, as he says.
Yeah.
You borrow from family.
So he has to leave the car running, so they leave Joey in the car while they run inside.
Yeah.
And a dude knocks on the window.
The creepiest man in the world.
And asks for directions.
I don't want to know the casting process. I don't want to see who else came in to read for fucking Creepazoid number 1. This dude did a great job though.
Yeah.
Where he's like they go in, Joey's looking, she moves back, like she's leaning forward in the Jeep or whatever it is, station wagon, and then she leans back and so we can see the window again, and his face is right there. Mm-hmm. It's like, ah! And then he's like, hi. That weird, like, what's your name?
Yeah.
And then he's talking to her, and she's giving him, like, oh, I'm supposed to be going to Providence. She's like, oh, you're really lost because you're at Cape Side, 100 miles away from where the lady killer struck last time, so he's probably going to be here. And he's like, oh, well, how do I get there? And she's like explaining how to get there. And he's just like fucking staring her down. And then when she stops talking, she just kind of looks back at him. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. Was I staring? You just have really intense eyes. Has anyone told you that? I mean, like, I felt like my skin fucking crawling.
It was an uncomfortable exchange for sure. So, yeah, and in the store, there's some weird shit happening because there's a couple arguing.
Yeah.
And this kind of bothers me, okay? The man's literally putting his hands on this woman, and she's like, get away from me, stop touching me, whatever. And Pacey's like ready to go over there and do something, and Dawson's like, it's a domestic squabble, stay out of it. Like, you're a fucking pussy.
He is.
Lazy, too. Like,
He is.
what? He's like, I don't want to get involved. So you're going to just watch this big man beat on his girlfriend because it's a domestic dispute? Fuck you, Dawson.
It's not my business.
Ugh.
Dawson wouldn't have had the guts to become a Nazi, but Dawson would have 100% just looked the other way as the Nazis marched down the street.
Right.
It's not my problem. See Jews getting pulled out of their homes and stuff like that, getting loaded onto trains. Well, what's going on here? Fucking coward.
So then the guy storms out, and the lady walks up to Pacey.
Yeah.
And starts flirting with him and asking if he wants her to score them a bottle of wine.
She asks it super loudly in the empty store besides them.
And he's like, yeah, sure. And she just grabs one and puts it in her bag.
It's like, I could have done that.
Yeah. And that made me pause for a second and be like, is she maybe not 21? But
I think she is.
yeah, she looks like she's about 25, probably.
I think she's still like stealing.
Yeah.
She's just white trash.
She was very, very fucked up. Like, she seems like, yeah, maybe she's just, as you put it, white trash. I don't like that term.
Why? Why don't you like that term?
I don't like it. I just don't.
Okay. Is there a reason? Were you called white
It
trash?
seems
a lot?
racist to specify that the trash is
trash.
white, because if you don't specify it, people are going to assume that the person's not white because they're trash. That's why I don't like it.
Interesting. What a weird take.
I don't know. It just seems weird. Like, you call somebody trash, but you got to specify they're white trash. I don't know.
I mean, I guess that's true. If someone says trash, like that person's trash or whatever, I never picture a black person.
Well, no.
Not that I'm like, the least racist person in the world or whatever, but I mean, I don't think I'm racist, but I'm not what I'm saying is I'm not competing for it. Like,
See the awkward turn this conversation
I would never think that way about black people or whatever. I'm not saying I'm perfect, okay? But what I'm saying is I don't think of trash as a derogatory that really applies to black people.
Yeah.
If you're going to call a black person a derogatory name and not the really highly offensive one, trash is just not, like if somebody said thug, I'd be like, well, you're racist. I'd be thinking they're racist, but I'd be thinking they're referring to a black person. Maybe that makes me racist. But and stuff like words like that, right? Like gangsta, I would consider those, people, maybe ignorant people, would refer mostly to black people using those words. But trash is not one of them. No,
trash is usually used for white people. White trash or trailer trash, both usually referring to white people.
Correct.
Anyway, this woman, I wouldn't have even said trash. That's not the thought that came to me, but she just seems kind of crazy. Like, fucking insane.
Yeah.
And she's trying to hang out with these high school students to make her boyfriend jealous. It's dumb.
Again, they're supposed to be like 16, so.
Yeah. But, so this adult woman's like, hey, I'm going to come party with you. And they have to, what?
Does Pacey release a pheromone that that only older women can
apparently
smell?
I mean, he is definitely more attractive than Dawson, so given the options in the room at the time, it makes sense.
No, that clerk wouldn't look too bad.
I don't remember the clerk.
The balding clerk in the background.
But the boyfriend has not gone far. So when they walk out of the store,
He's
have
waiting
to...
in the car.
Yeah, they have to, like, run because he's chasing after her. Mm-hmm. He's waiting... Yeah, like... she's so messed up. Like... Anyway, we'll talk about it more later when we get to when she actually talks about him.
Okay.
But, so they go off to the party. They get away from the crazies.
Well, Dawson comes out before Pacey runs out with her and interrupts the conversation between Psycho and Joey. Mm-hmm. He's like, hey, can I help you? And he turns around and suddenly gets very defensive and, like, just very stiff. And he's like, no sport. I'm okay or whatever. We're just having a chat. And then he, like, walks off.
Very weird.
And he admonishes or whatever Joey for talking to strangers. She's like, that could be the lady killer.
Right.
Wink. She said, did you just say wink out loud?
I mean, what do you do, though? She's not in the driver's seat. She's in the back seat, and there's a man knocking on the window. You just going to look the other way? You can't drive away from him.
You just put your middle finger up, press it against the glass, and turn away. Just That's what they would do in New York.
Weird.
Yeah, that's why Son of Sam had to use a gun.
All
Because
right.
nobody would roll their window down.
So they go to Dawson's, and he has tons and tons of scares and pranks set up. Oh, and Cliff shows up at Jen's to pick her up, and he's like, oh, we're not going far for our date.
Yeah, we're just going over here. Oh, by the way, Jen's grandma got wet at the side of Cliff.
Yeah, she was like drooling.
I've heard so much about you. I see you at the Presbyterian Church, and like
every Sunday.
She's just
You're the quarterback,
right? Holy shit!
Yeah, I mean, like, and the worst part was like Jen pointed out, this is not good. Like he's like happy about it. She's like, this is not a good sign. Like, this does not make her more attracted to him.
Part of what made Dawson so hot was that Grams hated him,
right? But yeah, so it's Jen and Cliff and Dawson and
Joey and Pacey
and the random girl. So they're having their little seance, and the power goes out.
Yep. And the phone goes to go out.
And rightly, they're like, Dawson. They just assume that he did it, which it turns out he did.
Yeah.
What a stupid thing to do. I
also don't know how. He says he rigged the thing, the fuse box or whatever, to... It's the one with the switches. What do they call it? It's not a fuse box. It's a circuit breaker.
Oh, okay.
He rigged the circuit breaker to go off at a certain time. How? How'd you do that, Dawson? How did you rig that?
Yeah.
Because
Is he MacGyver?
Right? I don't... That's not an easy... I don't think that's an easy thing to do. I don't know how to do it. You can turn the lights off in your house, just flip the switch, but you have to physically flip the switch. Did he build a fucking Kevin McAllister Home Alone style device?
Good question. But the phone, he said, was not him, right?
No, his phones were his too.
What an idiot. And how do you do that?
Everything that happened. Because we're supposed to be afraid that maybe it's the killer.
The lady killer, yeah.
But it's not. It's all Dawson. Everything that happens that we think, oh, this could be scary, it's all them doing it to each other.
Yeah.
Even though we don't know that until the end. There is only one scary thing that happens, and it's the most innocuously scary thing that happens. We already talked about it. The conversation Joey has with the dude.
Oh. Well, no, I think when the psycho lady's boyfriend showed up, that was pretty scary.
Well, yes, and that was an actual threat, too.
Yeah. He shows up while the power's out and breaks the glass on the door and lets himself in.
Yeah.
And, like, is threatening them.
How did he even find them?
He said he followed them.
I guess.
I don't know why he waited so long.
Right.
And then Joey starts beating him in the head. Was that with a pan?
Yes.
And the girlfriend runs over and saves him.
Yeah, and she's like, let's get the fuck out of here. These kids are psychos.
It's so weird.
You're trying to kill them.
Right?
And so, yeah, they get out. And she's... Before that, before all this happens, they're kind of going around talking about stories and everything, and Cliff's like, oh, it's a true story about some baby or whatever, and snakes.
That's so stupid.
I don't know what it was.
Gross.
But the psycho lady tells a story. And her story is hilarious. Because she's like, oh yeah, there's this woman that likes to get picked up by fucking strangers, like strange high school kids. She's got a knife in her purse, and she fucking stabs the shit out of them.
She likes to cut their throats to see how far the blood will spurt.
Right, yeah, all that stuff.
And then she has that psycho smile.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, you assume she's just fucking with him, but who knows? And then when she's leaving with her boyfriend, she talks about him, too, about, like, how he's a monster. How he took some dude's face, bashed it into a wall, and his eye was hanging from his skull.
Yeah, he went to jail for fucking assault and battery and shit.
She's like, but he's my monster.
Yeah.
Like, if that makes you wet, lady, more power to you. Leave other people out of it. Leave other people out of it. Like, it's like
seek some psychological help.
But I mean, seriously, like, she knows he's dangerous, and she's just like, hey, let me go get all these kids involved.
Yeah. I think she did it on purpose.
Yeah.
I think she fucking lured him there, knowing he was going to go psycho.
Like that episode of Quantum Leap.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
The wrestling one.
Yes. Yeah, some women are fucked up.
Absolutely. But then they end up getting out of there. And everything kind of goes back to normal.
Jen and Dawson have a little talk, though.
Oh, yeah.
And they almost kiss. They should have kissed. They came so close to kissing, they may as well have kissed, that it actually made me angry that they didn't.
Right.
Because I don't think just, like, turning your head at the very last second, Jen, makes it okay. You just cheated on Cliff. You're on a date with Cliff. You're a bitch. Sorry.
I guess.
You don't think that was inappropriate?
I don't know. I mean, it's not 100% appropriate, but how much does she owe to Cliff?
I guess they've only
They're
been
not
like 3
really
dates
together.
Yeah, all right.
But so, we find out that everything was Dawson or Cliff, and that's kind of everything goes back to normal. She says to them, "Sorry about the damage. I work at the bowling alley. I'll give you a free bowling game."
Yeah. And not even in their town, though.
Right.
So then at the very, very end,
The denouement.
Joey and Dawson are back in his room, back in his bed.
Yep.
And we see on the news that they caught the lady killer.
Yeah.
And it was the dude knocking on Joey's window.
That's the guy she was talking to, and that she was going to be the next victim.
Yeah. How scary is that? And is it at that point, or was it earlier in the episode when he does something where he pranks her and pulls her onto the ground with him?
That's the beginning scene.
Okay. See,
that's when he got the mask.
Okay. I don't know. Like, I don't understand what's going on with Dawson and Joey, because there's so much sexual tension.
Yeah.
They have so much chemistry.
Yeah.
So it's like, unless you actually want us to believe that he's not attracted to her, then you should use somebody else.
Yeah.
Because that does not work between these two actors on screen.
I agree. And but I think that's what it's supposed to be. I think they are supposed to be well, she for sure is. I think he's supposed to be attracted to her too, no matter what he says. He doesn't think that's, for whatever reason, he's convinced himself he and Joey shouldn't be a thing. I think he likes her so much that he's really afraid that if they date, it won't work out, and then they won't have this.
Or he's afraid that it will work out, and he doesn't want to be in that relationship yet.
Yeah, that's a possibility too.
Because they're so young. I mean, because it's like, yeah, I mean, if they're really like perfect for each other, do you want to settle into your forever relationship at 15, 16 years old?
Yeah, I guess that's a possibility too. He wants to go experience life because he thinks that he needs to experience a lot to be good at making movies, which is what he wants to do.
That
so
makes sense.
that's a possibility as well.
But either way, he almost kissed Jen. He should have kissed Joey.
Yeah,
The horniness continues on Horny Creek.
that's right.
I think him and Jen are going to get back together now.
I don't know. We'll see. But I mean, that does seem to be the direction it's trending in.
Oh, it was so funny too. When Cliff was dropping Jen off,
Yeah.
he kisses her. Were they actually kissing, or was he about to kiss her? I'm not
He was
sure.
about to kiss her, or like she turned away or something.
But Grant opens the door and sees it, and she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. Please continue." And
Right.
starts to shut the door. It's like, what the hell?
The door shuts, and then the blinds start to move.
Oh, it's no good. But yeah, I guess that's the episode.
That is the episode, Carol.
So you can write us at latefee1994AOL.com. Check out our website at www.retrolatefee.com
Yes.
and share the tapes with your friends.
I will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.